Mississippi Outdoors Radio. It is time on this Monday to head outside for a bit. And to help us do it this week on Mississippi Outdoors Radio, from the Law Enforcement Division, Major Chris Reed. How are you, Major?
Hello, David. Good to be here.
You look happy. You're picking up Adam's slack.
It's not easy to do, but I've picked up heavier loads before, so it shouldn't be a problem.
I think that was kind of a backhanded insult, wasn't it, guys? Maybe a little bit. Also in studio, because we're talking shooting today, Steve Moore, Reno, is with us, and Jad Touchstone, talking about the shooting programs and the shooting ranges in the state, and we're going to get into that in just a bit. Right now, Chris, primitive weapon season. It's time.
That's it. There were a lot of orange vests in the woods this weekend, and kicked off with the youth season. Saw some pictures of youth being successful in the deer woods, and this week up until the 21st of November, we'll run the antlerless only primitive weapon season. And so that's for adults and everybody else involved. They can go and be in the woods with a primitive weapon, an approved primitive weapon. The old muzzle loaders or the newer, air quote, primitive weapons that pretty common. People pretty much know what those are, and if they don't, we can help them out. And they can shoot does, antlerless only, during this time period. You cannot harvest a buck with your primitive weapon. You can still harvest a buck if you choose to use archery equipment, traditional or the crossbows. But yeah, it's the fall seasons are starting to one by one ramp up, and so that's good. It gives people an opportunity before the rut takes place to get some does harvested, and which would increase. It's a good time to get some management done, extend the range that maybe you weren't able to get a doe or antlerless. Antlerless deer close enough, and you can kind of reach out there 100, 150 yards and try to put a dent in your doe quota for the year, and get it done now before the peak of the rut starts, so those bucks have to cruise a little bit more to find the female kind.
Let's go back for just a second.
All
here.
right.
Are we still inventing new primitive weapons?
I don't think so.
Okay.
I think we stopped a few years back.
Okay.
And when I say that, some of the primitive weapons, can reach out there a good piece, like the 35 Wayland. 4570 can reach out there a couple hundred yards. And I don't want to talk too much about firearms and their ballistics and all that good stuff, because the in guests, Jad and Reno, are subject matter experts in firearms, and they're real gracious. So if I do say something incorrect, they probably wouldn't call me out.
Oh, no, they
Unlike you.
Oh, we'll call you out. Don't worry about that, Chris. Yeah.
I would encourage them, too. You know me.
I know. It makes for good banter.
Yeah, well, we got to get the facts right,
That's
what you have to do.
Yeah.
And by the way, they also, we still have the mandatory sample periods coming up for various zones, and let's just explain mandatory here, Major. It doesn't mean if it's convenient. That doesn't mean if you get a chance. Right. That means you take a deer, you do it. Right,
yeah, and so in those management zones, on those dates, the CWD zones, on November 21st and 22nd, I know in the South Delta, there'll be, if you harvest an animal, you need to, by 10 p.m. that day, drop off at a check station or freezer, and we'll have drop off points in all the counties that are affected, that are in the management zones, and then that will rotate January 2nd and 3rd, and then January 16th and 17th for the southern portions of the state. And so the zones in the northern half, north of I-20, the South Delta, and then the 19 counties there in North Mississippi, those days there'll be an opportunity to check your deer. And so, it's not like one of those things where we made it mandatory, so because people unfortunately think that we come up with some of these regulations as a way to get you, and that's just simply not the case. It's a manner of, I think this is the third hunting season now that we're dealing with CWD and the biologists and staff have made the recommendation and kind of progressed on to implementing some of that so we can ensure that some of our goals, county-wide goals, are collected, and we can get some of those numbers so we can paint a better picture of where the disease, that's a tough one, exists across the state. And that's why later on in the year in the Southwest and the Southeast zones, there will be mandatory days there also.
Yeah, well, you have to. Even though you're hopeful you're not going to pick up anything in those South zones, you don't really necessarily expect to, but you got to keep doing it so that you can catch it when it does start to spread there, so we know what we're dealing with and how to manage it. We talked about this at length last week on the show. We had an entire CWD show, and it's necessary because a lot of people didn't really understand why, if there's an area where it's not here, why am I having to do this?
That's right.
Well, that's why.
Well, I mean, before we ever knew we had it in 2018, quote unquote, didn't exist. When in fact it probably did exist. We just weren't aware of it because there was not, and a hunter called in who was, aware of the surroundings and noticed something that just wasn't right, and that kind of got and that was in the South Delta. And then testing across the state revealed new positives in different areas of the state, being North Mississippi, and then you kind of focus in there. And so the key to it is to catch it on the early stages, so you can mitigate the herd there and the spread of the disease. And that's why it's so important just for the hunters and the outdoor. It's a little bit of a hindrance. I mean, that's just the honest truth. And you talk to people, and that's kind of what they want to hear. But it's better to be a little inconvenienced for 30 minutes to an hour on the front end than let's just pretend it doesn't exist. And then years down the road, we're like, man, why don't we do something 10 years ago? And so it's like I said, it's mandatory. So there can be fines issued or citations issued. That's not the goal of it. And hunters across the state, as well as fishermen, whenever there's new, they're the biggest stewards of our resource that we have. And whenever there's new regulations, they adhere to them. You're always going to have that group that just can't get right.
Well, they drove 95 getting to the hunting site to begin with, so they started out on the wrong foot.
That's right. I mean, everything's wrong from the get-go. So.
Yeah. Got a couple of questions for you,
all right.
Major. On the C Spire text line, Chris in Oxford. Here's a question. What do you do if somebody shoots a button buck thinking it was a doe? In other words, they couldn't see the nubs.
What do you do? Well, if it hasn't...
I think they're asking how big a trouble are they going to be in?
Well, if it hasn't broken the skin, that would still be considered. That's why when people say antlerless, that's why it's classified as such. Until it breaks the skin, that's not an antlered point, and so it'll be classified as an antlerless deer. Now, within your hunting club or your lease, there may be consequences to deal with there, and that's some of the reason people put a weight limit on does. 80-pound, 90-pound minimum, because that'll protect some of those fawns. And generally speaking, good thing to live by is if the doe that walks out at 4 o'clock in the afternoon in the wintertime to the food plot by itself and is feeding is probably not a doe. It's probably that little antlered buck that's barely broken the skin, if not still underneath the skin. And so just kind of watch that and make sure that some other deer come out and you'll be like, wow, it's a lot smaller than I thought it was. So I think that may have answered the question.
I think so. Yeah. I think so. Okay. Richard from Wiggins said, exactly, remember bearded hens. It's another example of that.
Yeah.
Richard did have a question, though. He said, define traditional crossbow, please.
I think I meant to insert a contraction or in between traditional or crossbow. Yeah.
Okay.
So compound bow, traditional methods, or the crossbow. And I appreciate, people making sure I'm on point. That's good. Thank you.
Richard's watching you.
He's watching me, baby.
Yeah. Well, somebody needs to, Major.
I agree completely.
Somebody needs to.
I concur, yeah.
Thank you.
When we come back, Reno and Jad, we're going to continue to pile on talk about shooting. It could be both, guys. I'm going to be honest. Mississippi Outdoors Radio continues next. Welcome back, Mississippi Outdoors Radio. And taking center stage now, Steve Moore, Reno, and Jad Touchstone with the Department of Wildlife, Fisheries, and Parks, State Shooting Ranges and Programs. How you doing, guys?
Doing great. Thank you.
Reno, you've done a great job keeping the major in check so far. I just wanted to comment. I'm proud of you for that.
I'm sure he'll chime in on us, too. I've tried to kind of be light on him.
I'm a fan. I'm a fan, man, of Reno and Jad. They do a great job. It sounds like a TV show or something.
Reno and Jad.
Yeah,
I'd watch it.
Like an old cop show or something.
Yeah.
They start something there. Starting clutch, Here we go.
A new reality show on the ranges.
I would watch that. I seriously.
Once anyway.
Get Chip on this. I can watch this.
Let's see what we can do.
This is a great idea. Now, we're talking about the department's shooting ranges, and we get questions all the time about them. Why isn't this one open? When is this one going to be open? What's the deal with this? And let's just give an overview first regarding how many ranges do we have? Where are they? What do they offer? What do they have?
We have 3 different shooting ranges in the state. All 3 ranges have shotgun, skeet, trap. Well, they have a shotgun venue. So Turcotte Shooting Range has sporting clays, 5-stand, skeet. They all have rifle range, pistol ranges. We all have 3D archery and archery sight-in ranges as well.
Very good. So a little bit of everything.
Across the state, yes, sir.
Very nice. See, I'm glad you mentioned pistol because that's my thing, and I was about to ask a question. Just about.
Go, Dave.
Okay, Reno's on my
Pistols
side.
Rule, that's right.
I'm telling you. I have pulled a lot of triggers on pistols in my life, and that is the most fun you can have without getting in trouble in public.
Yes, sir.
I love the handgun. We have a wonderful handgun range. Actually, on all 3 of our ranges, we have a good handgun set up. But at Turcotte, where I stay most of the time, we have a particularly nice one. And people come out and enjoy it on all 4 days that we're open. And we're happy to have them out there. But it's a gas. A lot of fun. Very safe place to do it, but a very enjoyable pastime.
Well, and that's important because there are a lot of private ranges all over the state that you have to pay a membership for, and you have to jump through all the hoops and do all the bells and whistles. But these are just available for people to use, right?
Yes, sir. It's $15 a day, and you can stay on it all day.
Thursdays, Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays this time of year. Thursdays and Fridays from noon until 5. Saturday from 10 o'clock till 5, and then Sunday 1 to 5.
Very nice. So it's wide open. I would suspect they're busy.
Yes, sir. This time of year they really are, particularly the rifle range. People trying to sight in their deer rifles or just check to make sure that they're sighted in and maintain their zero. A lot of people buying new rifles, getting ready for Santa Claus to come to town, things like that, getting them set up. A lot of the youth hunts, which we just had this weekend here, a lot of people out in the woods, and glad to have them out there. We got a burgeoning deer populations that, we need to keep in check. We have to manage these things. That's what wildlife management's all about. But before you can do so ethically, you need to make sure that your gun is sighted in and that you're within your appropriate range and do so safely. So we've got a place out at Turcotte, got a place up north Mississippi, McIver, and, of course, down in south Mississippi, McHenry. Jad could probably touch on a little bit of the storm damage that we had down there, though. Mm-hmm. So we're going to be temporarily closed a little bit down at McHenry. Jad, can you add something on that?
We just got back opened up Saturday.
Oh, good.
So
thanks.
We're fully functioning.
Well, that's saying something because there was some damage down there from, was it Zeta?
Yeah.
That came through and did a good amount of damage to structures, and not to mention probably trees and limbs and all that stuff that was knocked down. And to have that back up and running, initially was thinking it'd be a decent amount of time being shut down. So that just speaks to the people that are running these things and working on these shooting ranges that we have in the state.
Well, and it's an important thing. And I want to bring up one thing that you didn't mention. You were talking about sighting your weapon in and making sure that you got your range right and everything else. There's another important thing that you can take care of by going to the range, and it's this. The more you go to the range and shoot, the better the chance you're going to hit what you're trying to shoot.
Yeah. Amen, brother. Amen. I'm telling you what, you just can't practice enough. Shooting is a perishable skill, whether you're talking about self-defense with a handgun, whether you're talking about bird hunting or deer hunting or something with a rifle. It is certainly a perishable, it's like skill, and if you don't knock some of that rust off, you're just not going to have the confidence and the ability to do what you need to do when the time comes.
Well, and there are so many little tiny details that you have to keep straight and that you have to do right. And just alone muscle memory plays a big part. The more you go to the range and do it, the better you're going to perform when it comes time to bring that meat home.
Amen.
And I can't tell you how often we have people come in the range that have bought a weapon at a gun store and it was bore sighted. So they're prepared to go hunting with it, they think, and they come out there and they can't even hit paper with it. So a lot of times you need to come out and really verify all your zeros each year. I've put guns in my gun safe at home and come the next hunting season, pull it out, and they're off. So you need
talk
to
about, like, that's
verify.
the mystery. It must be a little elf on the shelf gets up in those gun safes or something and knocks them around.
Life is a tale of woe. I tell you what, we hear lots of tales of woe out there. Well, I saw this giant buck or this giant elk or giant whatever, and I missed it, and it's my gun's fault. And so it's best to eliminate that gun's fault early before you get out there and start hunting. And we do have some great places to do that, too.
It doesn't matter how much work you do in advance. It's always the gun's fault. That is the most common reason. I don't care. Major, when you go shoot and qualify out at the range, it's the gun's fault. You've heard that before from people.
Well, sights are got to be bumped or messed up.
Yeah, obviously.
I mean, there's somebody needs to check these sights.
I shoot much better than this, but you don't know that unless you go spend the time at the range, and the ranges with the department are a fantastic option to do that.
We appreciate you saying so. We enjoy being out there, and we enjoy shooting with the public, and you'll meet some of the nicest people in the world when they come out there. So if you're getting nervous about coming out there, you've never been out there before, man, let me tell you what, come on out. You really will meet some nice people, not just the people that work out there, but your fellow shooters. You'll make some good friendships, have some good camaraderie. It's a beautiful, all three of our ranges are just in pristinely beautiful places. I've been in ranges all over the country, Dave, and I can tell you most of the times they'll get a bulldozer and knock the place flat, and you'll have ranges all arrayed and different structures out there. But here in Mississippi, we try to blend the ranges in with the undulations of the terrain and the natural terrain. And I think considering, what shooting ranges usually look like, we have the most pristinely beautiful in the whole world. Jad did a particularly good job up at north at our McIver range when he laid out the sporting clays. And I've never seen a clay course that just, again, follows the undulating terrain of the land in a way that you just feel like you're on a nature walk when you're going through the course. Come out and have a good time with us. We really do have some great places to shoot.
You've been bragged on, Jad.
That's right.
Now's your time to claim it.
We work hard, and we get a lot of compliments on it from people all over the country. People come from everywhere to shoot with us, and we really think we've done a very good job on everything.
Now, are there any prerequisites to use the ranges? I mean, or do you just show up?
Well, there's two ways you can get our rules and regulations. You can actually go to our website. That's a good time to really talk about our website because there's lots of good information on it, MDWFP.com. If you really want to look at the ranges specifically, go to the law enforcement tab, hit that. A listing will come down, and you can pick either one of our ranges, McIver up north, Turcotte in central Mississippi, or McHenry down in south Mississippi, and lots of information on the ranges. What time are we open? Do we offer classes? What type of classes? Do we have any tournaments going on, anything that might inhibit some operations? Things like at McHenry, the storm damage, and we just reopened, and things like that. Bits and pieces of information that's easy for us to get out there, and it's a very convenient place for people to check. The website, I really want to push people going to that website before they come out to the ranges. We got some good comments on those websites, and we really appreciate people looking at them. Again, that's MDWFP.com. If you're thinking about the ranges, go to the law enforcement tab. A listing will come down. You can select the different ranges that you want to go shoot.
And they're all beautiful ranges. They're all open to you. All you have to do is show up and put them to use because, those sites aren't going to fix themselves. It's not the sights, I'll tell you that. I tried that excuse with my dad for years. Man, there's something wrong with this gun. And he would take it and put 5 right in the center of the target and hand it back and go reload and try it again.
Man,
it's usually the Indian.
Yeah, it's usually that. Don't use all my excuses, though. I got a few of them up my sleeve I still try to use, like the Coriolis effect. I really like to use that one.
Oh, that's a fancy scientific one.
Yeah.
Man, now does that mean that it would be off to the other side if you were shooting in Australia?
Well, that's just it. If you go down to South Africa, to Australia, and go hunting and everything, you got to really take that into effect. Also, the rate of twist in your barrel. Mm-hmm. Those are things, if you just happen to pick up the wrong gun, and I'm used to a rate of twist that goes to the left instead of clockwise, that can really throw you off, Whenever I miss, those are my two favorite excuses.
Reno, you have spent way too much time thinking about this. You've spent way too much time.
That means he's missed a lot.
It's exactly what it means, Jed. You're not wrong.
There's not any live witnesses walking around anyway.
So, somebody texted in, do you have pop-up targets on the ranges?
We don't have the pop-up targets per se. It's like everything's pretty static out there, and that's due to safety. I know there's some range facilities around the United States you can engage things like that, but it gets into two things that you have to be very careful with. Number one, expense of the range, and number two, safety. I'm not saying that's unsafe, but you've really got to watch things pretty closely, and I don't think we could handle the number of people that we really handle and do it properly. That's the reason we don't have them out there. But thank you for the question.
We're up against the break. When we come back, we will continue with Reno and Jad and the Major, all here for Mississippi Outdoors Radio. We're talking shooting today. Before it's over with, we may ask the Major what his last qualifying score was.
Well,
you already know what it is.
I can make a comment along those lines.
Yeah, maybe not. Maybe we'll just steer clear of that. We continue Mississippi Outdoors Radio next. Back, Mississippi Outdoors Radio, and as always, it is time for the Gateway Getaway. And this week, the Gateway Getaway, Lake Lowndes State Park up in Columbus, Mississippi. Lake Lowndes is a beautiful, serene park located in Columbus, providing a complete recreational facility for individuals or families. Whether you need to go to a ball game, that's the spot for it, or just get away. The park has 8 cabins and 50 RV sites for reservations. And once again, you can bring your horse and ride the 7-mile trail. That is pretty unique. We talk about it every time, Major.
There's not a lot of places you can bring your own horse that's advertised as such.
No, that's very unique. I love that. They have all sorts of amenities there: a playground, disc golf, a gym, ball fields, picnic pavilions, tennis courts, nature trails, and boatings. I think we established last time we were talking about Lake Lowndes, you can only use your horse on the horse trail, not on the disc golf course.
Yeah, it caused a lot of
It's not polo.
divots.
Yeah, that would be disc polo, which is a completely different game.
Sounds like
That may be
something.
something we need to do, though. That sounds interesting.
I think it'd be fun.
I
think
do
I'd fall off the horse, but it would be fun.
It may be a good spectator sport there.
Of course, they have a 150-acre lake offering excellent bass and white perch fishing. You can make your reservation right now. It's always going to be white perch. Quit laughing at me. MDWFP.com. You can go there to make a reservation. You can call 1-800-467-2757 or call the park directly at 662-328-2110. And as always, it's the gift-giving season. Give them every park in the state for a year. That's a present, baby. Let me tell you, an annual park permit, just $50. Access to all of the state parks for a solid year, including this week's Gateway Getaway, Lake Lowndes State Park up in Columbus. We have in studio with us Reno, Steve Moore, and Jad Touchstone, talking state shooting ranges and shooting programs. And you mentioned before the break, you used the word classes. Can you help somebody figure out what's wrong with their sights?
Well, can we ever do that? We're talking primarily about handgun classes, and we're getting a lot of interest in that due to the situation, the political situation, and some of the unrest we're seeing in some of the larger cities. People are realizing, I need to know how to take care of myself. And the beauty of a handgun is you can take it with you everywhere you go. There's some legal things you need to worry about, but the thing is, I can't walk around in the shopping mall with my rifle or my shotgun strapped across my back, but there are many places I can take a handgun and protect myself, and I want to do that. But you have to be competent with it. You need to know how to use those things, and we have some classes that will get you there. We have a basic handgun 100 class, which is really our foundational class. We start out with about a 1-hour safety lecture and really drill it into you, give everybody an opportunity to ask all the questions they want to. We explain it in detail and really set them on a good path of safety. We start talking about the pros and cons of the different types of handguns, whether it's a revolver, whether it's a pistol. We talk about recoil. How can you mitigate recoil or counter some of that recoil a little bit? Then we get into some of the nomenclature, and then we talk really the fundamentals of marksmanship. Again, it's our foundational course. How do you stand? What are the different stances that we recommend? How do you really supposed to grip the gun? With your right hand, left hand, and what do you do with your support side hand? You do a push, pull, squeeze, all those different things we talk about. We talk about how you're supposed to use your sights, your front sight, your rear sight. What am I supposed to focus on? We talk about line of sight and define that and talk about what you're focusing on before or after you shoot. those things, breathing, follow through, some of the esoteric things that people really don't usually cover in shooting. And then we talk about the all-important part, that trigger, that little thing that gives us so much trouble. But we go through the basics there and really give people a foundation for shooting, and so they can build on that. You don't even have to have a firearm to show up for the first course of Basic Handgun 100. We'll provide the firearms and a limited amount of ammunition and give you a little time to shoot so that you can really determine for yourself what level of recoil that you can tolerate. And then we have a second level course, the Basic Handgun 200, after you purchase your firearm. And you say, hey, Jad, Reno, we want you to teach us, how to use the one that we purchased. So we require you to bring 200 rounds of ammunition out there, and we'll teach you how to use your gun using the different fundamentals of marksmanship that you learned in the 100 class. And then just as good, maybe just as important, we'll teach you how to break down and clean and maintain your firearm. So that if you go through both courses, both of them are 8-hour classes. They cost $17.66 for each 8-hour class, a bargain, extreme bargain there. And we'll give you what you need to know to learn how to shoot that handgun. In addition to that, we got a good place for you to come practice too. Again, 3 ranges across the state, up north just outside of Sardis, just south of Canton here in central Mississippi, and just out of McHenry, Mississippi down south.
I saw your smile. Did you have a hand in picking the price, Jad?
A little bit.
Okay, yeah, I was just curious. That's a really odd price.
Well, I don't know. It's like I'm not going to mention any names here on the radio. I don't want to get in trouble. But I asked them to make it less than $20. And the reason we did that is we wanted everybody to be able to afford it. I don't care what your social economic status is. You can afford less than $20 to come out and spend 8 hours with an instructor so he can impart some knowledge and wisdom on how to use a handgun. Carrying a handgun is a great responsibility. It's a right that we have in America. I know a lot of people think it's a privilege, but I think it's more of a right. But you need to know how to do it safely, and you need to be competent with the firearm that you intend to carry. So we have the classes that will teach you a modicum of how to do that. And then we actually can qualify you to carry. I can't say qualify you, but it's like we teach the enhanced carry permit course, put it that way, so that you get certificate, and then you fill out the applicable forms and stuff for the Mississippi Highway Patrol. You take your certificate diploma down there, and you can get your enhanced carry permit. We teach the courses out at Turcotte and, of course, up at McIver and down at McHenry. At McIver, we teach the first week, Tuesdays and Wednesdays. At Turcotte, we teach on Tuesdays the second and third week of every month. And then the fourth week of every month, we teach on Tuesday and Wednesday down south at the McHenry range. But we teach the 3 different courses, the 100, the 200, and the enhanced carry permit class.
Well, and when you were running through the list of things that you teach in the basic class in terms of marksmanship, and one thing you kind of alluded to, but one thing that I think is important is when you're not at the range, but even then, if you're going to pull the trigger on a gun, you don't need to just be aware of what you're trying to shoot. You need to be aware of what's behind what you're trying to shoot.
Yes, sir. Rule number 4 that we go through our basic, safety lecture is like always be sure of your target, what lies beyond your target. From a tactical and a practical aspect. From the practical aspect, when you're practicing, you don't need to be out in Uncle Bob's pasture or his pine tree plantation, shooting at an ad hoc target. You need to have a good backstop behind it. Now, at our ranges, obviously, we have big berms there and big backstops that can do it safely. But when you get into a tactical situation, you've got to think about where your projectiles are going to. You're morally, ethically, and legally responsible, for wherever your bullets go. So you need to practice, knock off all that rust, and be very competent with your handgun, and always be sure of what's beyond your target. We teach changing the angle where you may shoot from a low position or a high position, so you're not flinging your projectiles on a horizontal plane. So being careful, thinking about your surroundings and what lies beyond them, very important. Thank you for bringing that up, Dave.
You're giving me flashbacks to IPSC matches now.
Man. You get Jad started now. Jad's a big IPSC man.
Are you?
No.
Oh, okay. You should be.
I should be.
It's a lot of fun.
I know.
It's exercise.
I work on ranges every weekend, so it's a little tough for me to get out to shoot as much as I want to.
Very good point. Yeah, you're busy helping everybody else. But all of this speaks to one thing that is so important. Why would you buy a car if you don't know how to drive? Why would you try to carry a gun if you don't know how to hit anything with it if it comes up and you need to?
Amen, brother. But I'm telling you, if you really went out there and canvassed most of the people, they would admit they buy a weapon, they shoot it a few times, it goes in the drawer, or worse, we hear these instances where people buy the weapon, they shoot it a few times, and then they lock an empty weapon in the closet, and then down the hall there's another closet that they lock the ammunition into. So Then they hear that little bump in the night or the glass breaking and things like that, and then what are they going to do at that point? You have the other end of the spectrum where some guy's got 15 guns secreted around the house, and it's like, okay, where are the kids? Whether the grandchildren or the nieces or nephews or whatever coming in, and you've got to protect them from those firearms. So I'm not going to use any brand names out there, but there's some great little safes, rapid action safes that you can, I like to use a little bracelet that I put on with RFID technology. When I hang my hand over the little safe, it'll pop up. My handgun is in there, a couple extra magazines and flashlights so that you can do exactly what you need to do and take care of business. But you don't endanger the small ones running around the house and have loaded firearms, secreted away so that they might, stumble on them. You have to be safe with these things, and you have to be responsible.
Well, all of this speaks to the fact that having a firearm, owning a gun, is not an end. It's a means to an end. And if you don't know what to do with it to achieve that end, you might as well be toting a brick. At least you could throw that with some accuracy.
Amen, brother. I'm telling you.
I know of one lady, you speaking of this, is bringing up a lot of memories, had purchased a firearm and was carrying it in her purse. Ooh. She was so proud of it. Oh, no, it was totally safe because she had the ammo in a Ziploc bag in her purse. Beside it, I said, ma'am, if somebody mugs you, you can't say, hold on just a second, I got a load. It doesn't work that way. You might as well tote a brick, get a rock. So these classes, this education is extremely important, as is getting out to practice. You just heard, Jad's always there. You're always at one of them, aren't you?
Somewhere, yes, sir.
Yeah. By the way, Jad would like to file for a day off, Reno, if you could.
Hey, he's my boss, man. It's the other way around. He's been working me so hard. He needs to give me a few days off, I think, Dave, so that you and I can go down to South Mississippi and check out, McHenry.
Jad, we need to talk.
We can make it happen.
Okay, awesome. The final segment of Mississippi Outdoors Radio next. This is how you know that this show could be 5 hours today, because we just talked more during the break than I think we have on the air. So and Jad's just sitting there going, yeah, you guys get it out. Just get it all out. I see you over there being very gracious and putting up with me and Reno sitting here swapping stories.
Y'all are good.
No, he's good. I show up. That's all you can say about me. But it really is a fantastic opportunity for people. If you don't know where to go shoot, don't go out to Grandpa's pasture behind the house. You're just asking for trouble, and I'm just going to be honest, you're not going to learn anything. You're just not. And you guys offer the opportunity for instruction, for a safe place to shoot. And most importantly, once the instruction is done, that's not the end. That's just the beginning. You offer a great group of facilities to go practice. Because, trust me on this, every round that you put through that barrel, you get a little bit better.
Amen, brother. I tell you, one of the things that we have a lot of ladies come to the Basic Handgun 100 class. And one of the first things they tell me after they come back out and practice is, we didn't realize this would be this much fun. We have ladies' church groups that come out together and shoot handguns. And it sounds like it's a little counterintuitive, but I'm telling you, folks, we're responsible for ourselves and our loved ones, and you need to know how to take care of yourself. It's a good place to learn.
Most definitely. And one final thing that I would say from personal experience, when he was talking about the 100 course and the basics, it's all the basics. You get the basics down, you're in, you're good, you're ready to go. You go much further past that into championship shooting and that kind of stuff, you're just getting better at the basics. That's all it is, Jan.
It's just like a foundation on a house. If you don't build on a strong foundation, you've got nothing else to go on.
Well said.
That's exactly right. So it is very important. Now, run down the list again very quickly here. The 3 locations, the hours, the cost, all of that.
We have 3 locations, North, Central, and South Mississippi. Our northern Mississippi is called McIver. It's right outside of Sardis. Again, if you go to the websites, we'll give you step-by-step directions there. We have a Central Mississippi Turcotte there, about 6 miles south of Canton, and then the Southern Mississippi range that we have is right outside McHenry, about 9 miles south of Wiggins, 23 miles north of Gulfport. They're all open the same days, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Now we have summer and winter hours. Our summer hours now on Thursdays and Fridays, we're open from noon until 6. On Saturday, it's 10 till 6, and Sunday, 1 to 5. We're in our winter hours since we went back on Central Standard Time November the 1st. So, again, on Thursdays and Fridays, we're open from noon until 5. On Saturday, from 10 until 5, and then Sunday, 1 to 5. Again, we're open Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. The other days we're working hard to keep the place up. In the summertime, cutting the grass. In the wintertime, keeping those machines running. We do it minimally staffing, so it doesn't cost the state very much money. But I think we got Jad and the guys have really put together a good program and a lot of good ranges with some great places to shoot.
Yeah, it really is, and it's something everybody should take advantage of, Major. It's so important to know what you're doing with that firearm before you use it.
Oh, yeah, because, we don't want any accidents, one's too many throughout a season or a year. And, it's good to be able to handle it and to efficiently use the firearm if, God forbid, it has to be used in a situation to protect yourself or your family. So, like they said, get out there and practice.
That's exactly right. Now, normally at this point of the show, I would turn to Adam and say, what about the TV show this week?
He is not here.
Yeah, so I'm turning to you.
I hope I can fill his shoes. Mississippi Outdoors this week, Thursdays, and then it airs again on Saturdays at 5:30 p.m., Thursday nights at 7:30 on Public Broadcasting Network. There will be some dove hunting by the youth and some red snapper fishing on the coast with spot-on charters. So check that out. You can always, again, if you miss it on Thursdays, catch it on Saturday evenings. Something good to watch. Be some youth dove hunting again at Muscadine Farms. And so dove season is open right now, currently in the north part of the state, which is a lot of Mississippi. And then you have the youth deer season is still going on. It goes on until November 21st. So if you're going deer hunting anytime this week or with your bow, you need to put your orange on. And Specs, white-fronted geese opens up Friday. So waterfowl season starts again this Friday. So we have a lot of stuff coming down the pipe, one after the other, 1 week after the other. Next weekend, if I'm not mistaken, is opening weekend of gun season. Maybe not. Maybe it's 2 weeks out. I don't have a calendar in front of me.
I don't know.
21st.
I think it's
What's
like
today?
a week and a half, 2 weeks out.
I'm rushing the time away.
A week from this coming weekend, I think, is when it is.
So, that just shows you that I am capable of an error.
Close enough. Remind him of that in case he pulls you over and asks to see your tags.